with, I would just like to ask you first, I mean, when was the time you thought that family business is something I would like to get into and not venture out or do something else apart from being an entrepreneur?
Well, sorry. I think when we completed our studies, so generally every family wants their to forward the legacy to take it forward. But to work passionately in that, you have to have a purpose in the life. So I think in my case, it was pretty much clear that yes, we used to do private label or we used to do job work for bigger brands, and we still do it. Like many bigger brands get our stuff packed. So we always had a dream of have making our own brand that big, or if not at least that big, should make a household name. So if you have in a family business, if the vision is clear, if the purpose is clear, and if you're passionate about it, so it's quite easy for to take the legacy forward.
Sure, Vidur?
For me, not only me, my father was also born in the beauty industry. My grandfather started the trade back in 1962. So ever since then, my father was born in 1967. I was born in 1991. So we both have been born into the beauty industry, and I'm also the third generation. So I feel like when there's so much of a family legacy, it's something which is in your blood. You have to do it. It's not that you have to do it, you will do it, because that's like the only thing you relate to, because you've seen that every time. So yeah, I think for me it's been like that. When you're born into it, you strive with it and you grow it, because your experience, the kind of trade knowledge that you can get, the trade insights that you can get, and that is something which totally makes you excel in it when you start. And I feel that's something which I personally feel. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a similar story, right? If you ask any second or third generation, they come up with an environment of being surrounded by a family that's eating business, sleeping business, and you kind of love it. And in a way, there's no point. I think it's a similar story across all families, that you kind of are designed in a way that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. The challenge is, I was also talking while in the speaker's room, the challenge, I guess, is the fact that sometimes when you know that you're anyways going to get into it, you're kind of relaxed in terms of your academics, and in terms of that's the challenging part. That is what we're trying to formalize it for next generation to make it more structured. But yeah, it's that whole environment that plays into the game. Yeah. What do you? Yeah.
Similar thoughts. It's more about the open communication that happens when we are growing up. Our perspectives are considered, and we understand what are the requirements, where are the lags that we can cover up with education, the technology upbringing that we are having. So, of course, you want to contribute and let the legacy grow, let the business grow, and that's how we enter the family business. I believe it would be the story of everyone who's in their second generation or third generation. We have grown up with the business.
So Mr. Uttam Malani has also joined us virtually. Thank you so much, Uttam, for joining us. Uttam, we were just asking each of the panelists about, the moment and the time, particularly when they realized, okay, family business is the way to go forward rather than doing something else, or maybe have some other profession. So just wanted to hear from you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I hope I am audible. Nice to also meet my fellow panelists. I myself am also a third generation in the family business of Century Mattresses, and quite similar to what everyone else said. At some level, when you're born into the business, it's not really a question of if, but more a question of when will you be getting into it. So you don't need to teach a fish how to swim. So it's kind of like that, right? You need to put it back in water to let it thrive and to flourish. So it was never really a question in my mind as to, if I would be getting into the business. It was more about waiting for the right timing. So I did work with a multinational back in the States till I thought the time was right, where I was prepared and the business was prepared for me to join. You don't want 4 people of the family to be doing the same work that 2 people of the family were already doing. So you want to add your own flavor, and you want to make sure that you're doing something productive and the organization is also gaining from it. So that's how it panned out to be in my case about 16 years ago when I joined Century Mattresses.
Sure. So panelists, I mean, when you are running a family business, there are certain set of principles you have to abide by. There's a certain team who has already been reporting to your fathers or forefathers. So when you have to actually, make yourself stand out, I mean, when was that moment which came into your life? Then the team and the professionals around you started saying, okay, he is the person we should now look up to, or he's going to change the direction of the company.
So, yeah, so with me, I'm blessed that my father used to take care of a manufacturing unit. So once I started the business, I first went to, we have a plant in Rajasthan, Alwar, there's a place called Alwar, we have a plant there. So I used to go there, but it was more kind of, undisguised employment, that every decision, everything's been taken care by them, and bas wo ek tarah se jao and dekho what is going, what's happening. So they gave me an opportunity that why don't you develop a brand and create your own infra. So I remember I started with 3 people. All 3 were old. My father's gave me 3 of his good team members. And we're blessed that we have expanded a different vertical altogether. And now we are, the team which I'm handling is over 1,000 people and all on payroll. So the question you asked, it's very important to have a segregated line. It's very important to have a clear defines of roles and responsibilities. So whether if I'm joining my father's business or if somebody is joining in our company, so if we have a clear roles and responsibility, so I think it doesn't matter much. Though I personally feel conflicts between generations it's always good to happen, because you learn from the experience and you make them think, persuade them, influence them regarding what's going on. So it's like a healthy discussion all the time. So, yeah.
So how I look at it is that, first of all, I feel like it's very important for the core values to penetrate into the company. I think that is really, really important. So what we guys do is that we have like a parents insurance policy in our company, wherein we are insuring everybody's parents. And that is something which I feel, because it's a family business, we've penetrated these values in the system, and people can totally, when the employees are working, they can also see the cultural difference in the company. And I think that comes from a very rooted background as compared to what would be like in a MNC, I feel. So that is something which you have to, although I feel like it's very important to also let go of the traditional principles. That is also sometimes very, very important, because you can't really grow when you have always been adhering to the traditional principles, because you have to get into the modern way of working of today itself, which involves having, your directors in the company from different parts of different MNCs, I feel, to bring about the change. And that's how I look at it. Yeah.
But any particular moment in the business that you want to highlight?
So I feel like, when I started in 2012, we were majorly in the salon industry. So today we have a network of more than 75,000 salons in India. And when I started it in 2012, this was even before Amazon India was launched, I was very clear that I wanted to bring the O3 Plus products in the digital environment. At that time, it was like, because we belong to a very women empowered industry, wherein the salon owners are not very comfortable when the product is available online. So at that time, I kept feeling like I'm taking a beating on it. Like, will it really make sense for me to have the product available in the D2C platform? But when I am today in 2023, I think I did the right thing, because, brands, the leading brands, they saw us. And I think we created a case study on many, many different platforms. And that was something which I started. And then a lot of MNCs that did not have plans to launch the product, the salon product online, they also started following. So that was something I felt that I did differently, and not everybody in the company was in my favor. But I feel like in the long run today, MNCs are following that. So that is something which I really feel that is something which I did differently.
With me, the scenario is very different. So just to give a background, my dad never was involved in the business that I look after, a firm called Indus Motors. In that business, he was never involved, and he kept on investing in multiple areas with kind of diversified. So for me, the challenge was entirely different. There was a very successful company, which was India's biggest automobile dealer for decades, and I am getting into that environment. and to get an acceptance from a very successful team, right? So that was, and these guys are performers, the best in the country, running the biggest dealerships. So for me, the challenges were different, and my dad was never involved on a day-to-day basis. And here is a family member getting involved among the professionals who's been super successful. So my challenges were entirely different. For me, from that background, the area that I could actually contribute was putting technology in, which they were so they knew how to sell cars, they knew how to service cars. And I realized that that's not the space that I want to get into, because they are the best at what they're doing. The areas where I could add value was to add technology, which kind of complemented what they were doing, rather than trying to better what they're doing, because they were kind of the best. So I kind of fit into the whole game. So now it's been 6-7 years. Now I'm more confident. So I could start a new brand called IndusGo, which is self-drive, which is also relative to that industry, which is competing with Zoom and Rev today, and which is a new business altogether. But my first 5-6 years was all into settling into the company with a successful team, adding value from a technology perspective. And the average tenure of all these professionals, successful professionals, were in the company, in Indus alone, was 20 years plus. So that's where I kind of come in. Yeah.
Sure.
I believe it's about whenever there's a crisis that happens in a business, there has to be a new thought process which has to come into picture. And with me, the same happened when there was a crisis of 2007, 2009. And I was just completing my college post that. That's when we came and we entered into new business segments. And that was the turning point. I've been fortunate that my father always was open to new ideas, new leaders taking over. And again, the global scenario is such that the world is in crisis. We all understand that. And again, it's an industry transition that's happening. And we are open to new ideas again. Okay. So it's about crisis and the new ideas, which has given me an opportunity, and it would give opportunity to various leaders in future.
Sure. Uttam, coming to you, wanted to hear your views. Could you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, sorry about that. I think the unmute control lies with the entrepreneur team. But I'll make this quick. I think the crux of a family business is that decision making is typically quite centralized, right? So you need to find your own path within that centralized decision making environment. And for me, I was clear when I joined the business that my role had to be a little different from what was already going on. So my grandfather and father and brother were already part of the business when I got in. And the task I took upon for myself was, kind of look at future-proofing the business. So, obviously the challenges of the past were to build the business ground up, not really think so much about what the future would hold, what kind of digitization might be needed, when would e-commerce come in, what kind of, global play would be needed to be looked at. So those are some of the things which I took up as challenges for myself. And I'm sure all my fellow panelists know this, that there's a lot of internal selling which happens even in family businesses. It's a good system of checks and balances because it keeps you honest. Otherwise, sometimes you might tend to get drifted away. But that's kind of where I felt taking Century overseas to the export markets, listing it online, implementing a more professional kind of HR culture within the organization. So these are some of the challenges which I took for myself, and I was fortunate in a way that I was given the liberty to push my boundaries and to make my own mistakes.
Okay, sure. So any specific change which you brought in the business and which further resulted in, helping the company move ahead?
Well, with us, as I mentioned, we used to be a contract manufacturers for a lot of big brands, and we still do private label for a lot of big brands. So I think I still remember the first 3 years of ours, when I joined the business, we were like, "Hey, let's start our own brand. We have a brand called Pansari. And when we started it, I think after 3 years, I come from a joint family background. My father is 6 brothers. So they may remember in the Banya community, they check ki bhai pichle saal, what is the profit, what is the loss, what you have done. So I remember like it was 2013 or 14. It was 2 years down the line of the business, and it was a lot of bad debts were there. So my uncle was, everybody was like, "Yaar, should he continue this business or what should we do?" So that day, one of my uncle said कि बच्चा भी नया फीस तो लगेगी. So I think that kind of confidence when they showed in me, so that pushed me further harder. And today we are blessed that with a guarantee we have a highest market share in Delhi NCR, and Pansari is a strong brand in North India. So I think this kind of confidence the family shown in me, and I think still every day not every day, I think once a week or twice a week we fight over things. But as I mentioned, the roles and responsibilities are very clear that you have to take care of only the brand. You're not taking care of the bulk business, or you're not taking care of this thing. So that department division is pretty much needed in family businesses, because I see my friends across. What happens with them is कि they are going along with their fathers, and it's like you are rahe hain, ja rahe hain, and they're not adding any value. It's majorly, I think, I would thank my family because they trusted in me and they gave them an upper hand, as he mentioned as well. Be open to mistakes. So, yeah.
Vidur, any down moment in the business when things turned around for you?
Yeah. So I feel something which I have always maintained, and I always stand by it, is that when it comes to beauty, it's a very competitive business out there. Today you are hearing a lot of brands coming up every now and then, and you see a lot of different kind of offers that they are giving, which really sometimes amazes you, that how can a brand go on, say, a 40% off or a 50% off, or like a 1+1, 2+1, all of those kind of things. So something which I've really stood by with is the fact that we do not promote discounting. We do not promote any kind of cannibalizing offers in the industry. And that is something which I feel like, and a lot of people know today that the maximum discount that they can probably get online is 3% on my product, which is just by default. Sometimes they just put it, just to show the brand on discount. We never go on discount, and that is something which I feel that I was able to do differently in my company, and that is the reason why when I see the brand, it continues to perform well throughout the year, and it's not affected by the seasonal factors. So that is something which, again, I feel it comes from the family background, it comes from the family principles, that you cannot possibly, we're not whenever it's like a family background, you don't favor too much discounting, because everything is very hard earned, and you've really, given all your life towards making it. And I feel that is something which I do it differently from the industry because of the kind of values that I have, and that is what gives me the kind of success.
My industry is automobile dealerships, right? So automobile dealerships with the EV coming in is going through a major disruption, and the disruption has just started, and we haven't really started feeling it, but people in the industry knows that the dealership's purpose itself is questioned today. With EVs coming in, with the service centers not being the primary focus, where our P&L is primarily focused over there. So we are going through a major transformation phase. And that is where I think we pitched in an idea where you're going to use the same resources to build multiple businesses inside Indus Motors to create a hedge in case. It's not like we are not going to exist, but we have to create multiple options and diversification. And that's how the idea of IndusGo came in. So we started that 3 years back, and now we are expanded to Hyderabad, Chennai, Kerala. We are starting in Bangalore. We want to soon start in Mumbai and Ahmedabad and Delhi. So that's where we want to create a new business inside Indus Motors, which can eventually be as big as Indus Motors. So that's the dream, and that's where I am heading right now.
Okay.
Shipping and logistic industry is again a very untapped market. For logistics, we all understand the domestic market is the only market that exists. But cross-border logistics, exports and import related, bulk, break bulk, there are several things which goes into shipping and logistics. There are a lot of segments which are there. So standardized processes, structured organization, this is what I came with to the organization. From a family business to a business family, as we are talking about it. This was the change. And we have gone global now. We have started globally marketing ourselves. It's not only India that we focus on. We have our office in Singapore and UAE. We are going to Netherlands this year as an extended office there. So these are the changes that we have brought in. And as logistic industry is changing, even internationally, I believe the more diversified we are into containerized, bulk, break bulk, air, and several such things which exist in our industry, this is the way that we have to go.
Okay. Since you touched upon this point, I mean, would you like to share more in terms of how you professionalized a family business?
So the companies are usually leadership centric when we talk about family businesses. I believe we have to be more about vision centric, and rather than have a particular family manage everything, it's about professional managers that have to come in. We have to give them their due regard, and that's where we have the transition happening. These professionals will take care of a lot of business divisions in your office, and they will make sure the growth happens, and it consistently happens. It's just not about limited minds which are controlling the business. It's about a lot of professionals coming in regularly at every level which will manage the business. So this is what I have come in with, that we do not make ourselves the family will decide everything. Yeah. It's about professionals will take care of things, and we have to understand and give them their due regard. That, okay, he is capable of doing it. And external expertise, in-house expertise, there are changes at every level that have to come in. And it's about the thought process that has to change. It's not only me, it's about us as a company that can grow. And a lot of people around that company who will grow with it.
Sure, I'm sure other panelists would also agree. Uttam, coming to you, any turnaround moment in the business which you would like to share with us, the panelists and the audience?
Sure, so I think in the life of a family business, there are turnaround moments every day, every week, every month, but maybe more recently, COVID was a big disruptor, and maybe I could speak a bit on how we at Century Mattresses handled that. Because typically in any family business environment, promoters and owners take pride in being very hands-on, and COVID forced us to be hands-off. It forced us to kind of take hands off the wheel. Everything was decentralized. People couldn't physically go meet people. Supply chains were disrupted. You had no option but to kind of have a more decentralized approach. You had no option but to get into digitization, strengthen your ERP systems, strengthen your digital marketing systems. So at Century, these were some of the things which have been in the pipeline for a long time. But we really used COVID to kind of accelerate some of the change management processes which we wanted to put in place. And that enabled us, to accelerate growth, not just in terms of top line, but also bottom line. And I heard one of my fellow panelists mention that this is something which is kind of ingrained as a core value in a family business, right? You're not taught to lose money. You're taught to add value. Your thinking is always about how do I improve efficiency, how do I add margins, and that's something which through COVID and beyond we were able to do by improving our logistics efficiencies, improving our packaging, doing things digitally, even tapping into overseas markets which had their supply chains more disrupted, utilizing capacities better, so on and so forth. So I think in a family business environment at a larger level, there are some of these turnaround moments or turnaround opportunities which you look back, but they are waiting to be tapped in every day, every week, every month. It's just how prepared you are to kind of let go of the past, which we also tend to hold on to a lot more than what is desirable, and kind of look towards the future.
Okay, sure. So with this, we would like to throw open the floor for questions. Please raise your hand, identify yourself. The mic will be sent to you. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yeah, please.
Good afternoon to everyone. At points, you might feel that the decisions made by the family are not the best suited decisions as per your upgraded technology view of the world. So, in that scenarios, it becomes important to counsel them in a way that they also understand and things. But it becomes really hard at times to really make a difference in the thought they have had traditionally and what the new market is about. So, in such scenarios, what do you guys?
Well, this kind of disagreement happens not just with families, even with the team as well. So the best solution, what we do is like, managing conflict is very easy. If you have a difference of opinion, like I'm saying this is going to happen, you're saying that's going to happen. The best thing is you consult a third person. And the third person, if it's a professional guy, so that's much easier. And be logical and, if there will be no conflict, trust me, the growth will not be there. Conflict give us, pushes us to think more farther. What will be the possibilities of failure? What will be the possibilities of, all the alpha, beta ki kya karne se? So I think it's always good to have a third opinion, like, and be open to listen to the team as well. Like, with what happens with us as well, what we are, suppose if we are telling, this thing will happen like this. And if a logistic manager says, nahi sir, this is not possible, it should go like this. So, being a family business, what we have learned is कि जो boss बोलेगा वही ठीक है, but as he mentioned, now professionals are joining, you should respect professionals. At the same time, if a professional is joining family business, trust me, with the family values adding to professional, he'll work like a owner. So there's like a no failure types. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Hi, so I'm Naresh. So extension of this question, conflicts between professionals and the family, but I'm talking about the aspirations within the family. Your brothers, siblings, sisters, managing the different aspirations, different passions, and how do you manage those kind of things, because business is already there, your parents are there, you have certain objectives of the businesses, but the aspirations can be different,
So how I look at this question, it's a very interesting question, and I feel what you have to really understand as a family is that you have to identify your own skill sets. So for example, as I said that I'm in the third generation business, my grandfather realized very early in time that my father was more street smart and he was more of a marketing and a sales guy, and his brother on the other hand was into engineering. So he understood that one person would be, doing more of the making of the machinery, etc., and the other person would go more onto the selling of skincare products and also getting into the marketing side. So, and similarly, I see a lot of my family friends where who have international business, and how they manage is that one brother looks after the Australian market, the other brother is looking after the American market. So I feel you have to really identify the skill sets, the needs, the aspiration of the people in the family, and then identify it and then allocate the resources accordingly. I feel that is something which you have to do, because if you don't identify the skill sets, then it will lead to an exhaustion eventually, So that is something which
I think just adding points to the other panelists, there's also a good trend among the family businesses where professionals are there who is only helping in setting up family constitutions. A lot of times what happens is, yes, we are family and we are working, right? So there's two added complicated elements. Like you said, there's a lot of emotions and there's a lot of things simple things like what kind of salary structure that your family member should get. A son will be very uncomfortable asking his elder brother or a father. So getting a family consultant to structure the family business is what we did, to bring out all the uncomfortable questions he will ask, and we are forced to answer and bring that constitution in place to make sure that there is a proper segregation of who does what, who gets what, and these are conversations normally family avoids. especially in an Indian scenario where we are very emotionally connected as a family member with a lot of respect with elders and juniors and things like that. He comes into a place where, as a focal point, bringing in all those uncomfortable, very important questions into the picture. So we use a person called Samish Dalal from SB Jain, and he's been a brilliant guy to bring out all those things onto the table and get all these answers up. So I think there's no one fixed answer to it, but these professionals do help in making sure that there is a proper transparency and a system and a document, making sure that who does what, who gets what, who is to be focused where, and things like that. Yeah.
Good afternoon to everybody. One case study only, just I wanted your remarks. There is Dabur Industries is there, and in comparative to that, in earlier days, Hamdard Pharmaceutical was there. Now Dabur is doing well, Hamdard is not doing anything. Can you comment on this? Dabur is also family business. Hamdard was also family business. But nowadays, Hamdard is totally finished, where Dabur is doing good.
As per my knowledge, Dabur has always taken professional helps. Dabur is led by all the professionals, and Hamdard is still it's a family-owned, family-run business. If you'll see, you won't see a lot of professionals working for Hamdard. I think other than ropes, none other product has been hit till now. I think they came into edible oils as well recently. But Dabur, since starting only, they have diversified themselves. They have grown up as a professional business. And there you will see a lot of professional help has been taken care of. So I think this is the major difference. If you don't know the subject, it's better to onboard somebody with the expert of the same budget. Yeah.
There's a very simple point which is being repeated again and again. Being receptive, open communications, not only in your family, but with professionals. Being receptive towards the lags which exist inside your family, in your business, and then bringing on those changes. Not only being receptive, but being ready to bring those changes. When there's a transition happening in a family, the elders are exiting and there is a new generation entering, there are a lot of uncomfortable communications which have to happen. There are new ideas, there's a new generation coming in, and if they ask some difficult questions, the last generation have to answer them, and the new generation have to be patient enough to ask them properly. So I believe the companies which are successful today, let it be Dabur or, for example, any of the companies which are here, they have been professionally managed. They have been able to ask those uncomfortable questions, and elders have been able to give satisfactory, non-satisfactory, but they have been able to give answers. And they have given the torch to the next generation, as the next generation is the torch bearer.
Correct. Uttam, would you like to add anything before we close the session?
Yeah, thank you. So in resonance with whatever my fellow panelists have said, I think the important thing to do to avoid conflicts at any level, whether it's owner to professional, owner to owner kind of conflicts, is to try and democratize the environment a bit. Have a little more listening, maybe take more viewpoints, professionals or specialists, of family members or family friends, whatever it is. And you're never going to run away from a conflict or from a conflict of opinion or from a dispute in terms of thought process. But what one needs to understand is that at the end of the day in a family business, there is a chain of command which has to be respected. Whether you like it or not, sometimes decisions are going to fall your way, sometimes they're not going to fall your way. But once the die has been cast, the decision has been made, you put a full stop there and you move on. Try getting your way, next time. But for now, you've got to work with the decision that has been made. So I think it's very important to operate with this kind of a respect within the environment of a family, and also democratize it by throwing it open to professional opinion wherever possible and as it may be.
Sure. Thank you.